marriage. That's why you can have people before marriage claim they in love, get married, and get divorced. Because you're trying to find love when you should get compatibility. Adam didn't have love for Eve, but he had compatibility. What is compatibility? Compatibility is when both parties in the relationship can meet each other's needs. When Adam woke up, he saw Eve and said, she got what I need. And because she's got what I need, I'm going to cling to her and we will become one. Love, watch this, is the responsibility of the covenant. If it happens before the covenant, it happens before the covenant because folk are doing covenant things. Okay, all right. Okay, maybe you'll catch it this way. Should two people who are not married make love? So if they can't make love, why you want them to be in love? Oh, I know I didn't lost you. I know. Well, you talking about you can marry people you don't like? No. When there is compatibility, love stems from compatibility. But you think you're in love because you've got a feeling with no compatibility. That's why divorce is such a high rate within believers, because we got feelings with no compatibility. Am I going? I didn't went too far. Okay, let me see if I can't. Let me see if I can't. Let me see if I can illustrate this. Okay. This glass, let's say this glass is about 16 ounces. Now, if I had a 3-ounce glass of water that was filled with water, and this glass was empty, 16-ounce, 3-ounce glass, could the 3-ounce glass of water fill this 16-ounce glass? I don't care how much it tried. It just couldn't do it because it's not compatible. Marriage works because of compatibility, not the biblical definition of love. I don't go tell nobody, say, well, I ain't got to love you, just marry me. No. Of course, there has to be some attraction. But when it comes down to doing what's best, that happens after the covenant. Now, you can gauge whether or not he's capable before you marry him. In fact, about it, you better. Because if he ain't capable of meeting your needs, I don't care how much you think you love him, you're going to want to hurt him once you get married to him. So 1 year, watch this. She has a body. She has a soul. She has a spirit. His job every day, according to Peter when he says Leah, is to interact with her physically, spiritually, and mentally. Every day, if he's going to do what's best for her, he's got to learn what's best for her, and he can't learn what's best for her if he don't learn her. So that means he's got to interact with her physically. Now, physically is not always sexually. Physically means, watch this, when he talks about interact, embracing. He has a responsibility every day to embrace her some shape, form, or fashion physically. A day should not go by when Brother Griffin ain't saying something physically beneficial to Sister Griffin. Hey, I like the way your hair looked today. Man, I had this hair last week. Yeah, but somewhere about the way you wearing it today. Every day, something physical, from a hug to a kiss. Are you listening to what I'm saying to you? Can I tell you one of the things that hurts our families? One of the things that, and this is one of the things, watch this, that you all are noted for across the country as a ministry, that you all are some of the most huggingest and kissingest people on the planet. Just my executive pastor was here the other day, Sister Joshua, and she told me when we got back to the hotel, she called me. She said, I enjoyed myself. I said, yeah. She said, yeah. She said, I see where you get it from. Get what? All of this hugging and kissing. Why? Because affection affirms. Affection affirms. Repeat after me. Say, affection affirms. So every day he has to do something interacting with her physically. Affirm her physically. Watch this now. Not only physically, but he has to do it mentally. That means there has to be some conversation, some intellect exchange. That's where the talking piece comes at. Every day, Brother Griffin has got to interact with Sister Griffin mentally. There's got to be some communication. Making any sense to you? But not only physically, mentally, but also spiritually. Every day. If he's living with her, he has got to make some interaction spiritual. I teach the men at Word Assembly, those who are married and those who are engaged, headed to marriage. I say that day should not go by when you don't pray with your lady. A day should not go by when a husband does not pray. You will be surprised how many couples pray together. Now, if a family that prays together stays together, imagine what happens in a marriage when they pray together. He says live, but then watch this. He goes on and say live according to knowledge. Which means, watch this, he has to interact with her physically, mentally, spiritually, because she's a whole person, right? She's just not physical. She's just not mental. She's just not spiritual. That's why the issue of a compatibility comes. Ain't no woman got no business marrying a man who's not on the same page she is spiritually. Oh, I wish I could really. There's a big difference between planning a wedding and having a marriage. And sometimes I've seen young sisters caught up in the planning of a wedding and catch hell when it comes down to the marriage. So every day he has to do it, but he has to do it according to knowledge. Now, wait a minute now. According to knowledge. I got to interact with her physically. I got to interact with her mentally. I got to interact with her spiritually. But I got to do it according to knowledge. That word knowledge there is not just a gathering of information from observation. It is the gathering of information from experience. When the Bible says Adam knew Eve, he's talking about intimacy. He's not suggesting that Adam got a book on sexuality, that he read upon the female body and found out every organ on the female body and what would be conducive to impregnate the female. He didn't learn that from a book. So how did he learn to be intimate with her? He learned through experience. Brother Griffin, watch this. Now, sisters, I'm going to say something tonight. Now, I know you're going to repeat this because when I taught her that word, sisters sent me emails talking about, oh, Bishop, you sure laid that point. Just when you repeat it in the same context. Here, don't take it out of context. And that's this. I'm sure in 1 year, Brother Griffin, I'm sure that there's been some times that Sister Griffin has been acting a certain way, saying some things, behaving in such a way, that deep down within your heart and your mind, you just did not understand why she acting the way she acting. You don't say nothing, Doc. Don't say nothing. Look how she looking at it. I wish she would say something. He gonna be going to California tomorrow, but watch this now. Watch this. And all of us, I've been married 16 years. Every man in here would attest to the fact that there's sometimes your wife is behaving in a way that is clueless to you. You don't, because she does not always fuss about what she's mad about, right? We speak in headlines, they speak in detail. We ask, how was your day? All we really want to hear is fine. But when we ask, how was your day? You give us a long list. Well, I got there at 9 o'clock and Keisha was at the computer. You know, I don't like her no way. She don't like me, I don't like her. But I went on throughout did my work. She stood out my way. And you got all you asked was one question. Watch this. Here it is. Here's the point. Peter says, if you interact with her physically, mentally, and spiritually every day, you will never be a mind reader, but you ought to be a mate reader. You ought to be able to know when she says good morning, what kind of mood she's in. The husband will never be a mind reader, but he has to be a mate reader. My wife called me today. We're transitioning our kids out of one private school to another private school. And the private school we're transitioning them out of, or rather into, is a very pricey private school. Very pricey private school. I mean, almost college tuition pricey. Now, I've done some legwork on the school, right? Didn't say anything to the missus, but I've done some legwork. Talking about mate reader. She calls me today, and she says, babe, how you doing? I said, I'm doing fine, sweetie, how you? Oh, good. What you doing? I said, I'm eating me a cheeseburger po' boy from Gene. She said, I knew you was going to go to Gene's. She said, I was just calling to tell you I sure appreciate everything you do for the family. But because I'm a mate reader, I know that calling and asking me or telling me she appreciate everything I do for the family meant some money. Oh, come on here, y'all. And so she began to talk. So now my antennas go up. How much this conversation gonna cost? And she began to explain such and such and such. And I'm just listening. But because I'm a mate reader, I know the outcome is she's about to ask me for some money. Making any sense? So I'm not thrown off. I ain't been, every time you call me, you ask me about some money. You know I'm going on the road trying to get ready to preach to God's people. Go on with all that. No. I'm a mate reader. So when she finishes, I say, how much is it going to cost? And she tells me, every man, as he interacts physically, mentally, spiritually, he learns his, if I could say this in a loving way, he learns his woman. And you can walk in the house. Hey, babe, how you doing? I'm doing all right, me. You know that means something. Because he's a mate reader. Making any sense to you? And watch this now. Watch this, and I'm finished. Brother Griffin has to learn, Sister Griffin. Sisters, here's where the challenge comes. As he's becoming a mate reader, you have to be honest with him when things about your makeup changes. When you go through the seasons of life, be honest with him about, because he's still trying to read you at this level. And you may have gone to another level by your biological clock and some physical things that are happening that he is thrown off. You know, it's sort of like how we have as men patterns and routines, and we get caught up in foolishness when we broke our routine. That's how you found out. They ain't that smart. They find out because we broke our routine. You come home every day at 6 o'clock. And now today you come home at 6:20. Ain't nobody tell her nothing. You looking paranoid, about to get caught up in some fooling. You just changed your routine. See, they ain't saying amen lie because I just gave them up. So I gave up something. You get caught because you changed your routine. You ought to see how some of you sisters looking at me. Live interacting with her every day. Physically. Affection affirms. Conversation mentally. But then spiritually. Prayer should be going on every day. He says according to knowledge. Get the experience in. Then he says, and I'm finished, he says, giving honor to her as the weaker vessel. Now, honor weaker vessel. Weaker is not suggesting she is inferior. Mm-mm. The spotlight of weak is there for protection. When he says honor her as the weaker vessel, he literally means your responsibility, if you're going to do what's best for her, you've got to protect her. But now remember, she's just more than physical. You just can't protect her physical. We can do that. Put her in the house away from crime, buy a gun, take her to the gun range, let her shoot. And man, my wife saw you and Lisa at that gun range and saw Lisa holding that big rifle and said, babe, I want to learn to do that. I said, no, no. Because my wife from that ninth ward, she made, something made flip and you used it. I come in there one night, you think, pow! Yeah, you didn't shot me. Oh, I'm sorry, babe, I didn't know. So we know how to protect them physically. Stay with me now. We know how to protect them physically. But as a husband, I'm also to protect her mentally.
Ready? Are you ready? What's going on?